हमार बिहार के भाई बहन के लोग ई त्योहार मॉरिशस के भाई के ओर से सादर नमस्ते और प्रणाम। जैसे कि काल हमार बहन वेदिका बोले रहल, आज हम भी इंडिया फाउंडेशन के अधिकारगण से अपन आभार प्रकट करीला कि हमरा ई अवसर दिलन जा कि हम अपन दादा पर दादा के पावन जन्मभूमि आ सकले। ऐसे बुझाता कि 5 पीढ़ी के बाद बिहार के ई बिछड़ बेटवा अपन घर आए। Indeed, there could be no better theme for me to speak on today than Ananda, because this is what we feel today to be in the land of our forefathers, among the people we feel like our own. Ladies and gentlemen, my topic is on the concept of Ananda in Advaita. It is a synoptic presentation gleaned from a wider project I'm undertaking, and I sincerely hope that it will be of use to all and rely upon your kind indulgence in case of any mistake. The ultimate goal of the Upanishads is a realization of Brahman Atman. This realization, that is experience of Brahman, has been analyzed from 2 perspectives, descriptability and indescriptability. The latter asserts that such an experience cannot be brought within the domains of thought, speech and perception, avak manasa gocharam. The Ishupanishad speaks of it in contradictory terms. The Kena Upanishad claims that it is beyond sight, speech and mind. In fact, it transcends the known and the unknown. Opposed to this, other passages portray Brahman Atman in positive terms. Brahman or Atman has an essential or primary nature and a host of secondary characteristics like omniscience and so on. The Chandogya Upanishad asserts that at the beginning was Sat, from which creation evolved in successive stages. Existence or being cannot create if devoid of consciousness or Chit. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma proclaims Taittiriya Upanishad. Brahman Atman can be equated with Sat from an ontological standpoint, but it is Chit from the epistemological one. These 2 essences could have proven sufficient to provide in positive terms the Swarupa of Brahman Atman. Yet, it is seen that the Upanishadic sages go even further by declaring it as Ananda. The Brihad Aranyak Upanishad states that Brahman is bliss infinite, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Brahman Atman experience is negatively the permanent cessation of all sorrow, but also the positive experience of absolute bliss. Unless the limitations of physical and mental forms of happiness are recognized and transcended, the ultimate and eternal happiness cannot be contemplated. It becomes obvious, therefore, that the realization of Brahman is the highest human aspiration, or Param Purushartha. Conferring the highest ontological status to Ananda, the Upanishads recognize it as the source of life and that to which they enter at death. During life, Ananda assumes phenomenological dimensions and manifests essentially as rasa. Rasa literally means taste, aswadan, and sap, or juice. It is sense and essence at once, and extendable to all domains of human aesthetic experience, from culinary to artistic. The descent of Ananda from its metaphysical position as absolute into the realm of phenomenal and the material has been taken up in the Upanishads and described under the scheme of the Panchakoshas. This is discussed in the Taittiriya Upanishad and also through the story of Bhrigu and Varuna. While in the Upanishads, bliss is thus acknowledged as Brahma Swarupa, and along with Sat and Chit conferred its due status, the equation of Sat and Chit and Ananda is variously addressed by later thinkers and commentators. Shankaracharya, the reference par excellence when it comes to interpreting and understanding the Upanishads, have been observed by some researchers to have ignored the Ananda dimension and given consideration to Sat and Chit as the essential nature of Brahman. The reluctance of Shankara to accept Ananda as a positive characteristic of Brahman, it is speculated, could be linked to his rejection of a Savisesh Brahman in favor of a Nirvishesh one. Brahman as Ananda becomes objectifiable and thus dangerous to the integrity of a monistic system. In his Bhashya on Taittiriya and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Shankara supposedly makes no mention of Brahman as Satchidananda. In fact, the avoidance of the usage of Ananda has been regarded as a litmus test to evaluate the authenticity of Shankara's works by some scholars. Critics of Advaita, like Ramanuja, have accused Shankara of distorting Vedanta philosophy by presenting an impersonal, thus inhumane, and an impartial, thus unemotional form of non-dualism. It has also been conjectured that Shankara minimized the importance Ananda has as he had to reconcile the ambiguity of Brahman as bliss with his creation of a world full of suffering. Without entering into the polemics, it can be safely claimed that Shankara did actually consider Ananda a dimension of Brahman. In fact, three types of Ananda can be discerned in his work. Laukik Anand, or worldly pleasures, Ras Anand, or aesthetic delight, and Anandamai Kosh at Anandamai Kosh level, and finally Swabhavik Anand, or happiness at the level of absolute. In the Adhyas Bhashya, Shankara hints at Ananda when he states that animals naturally move towards what is pleasurable and away from what is painful. In his analysis of the first sutra, Dhatu Brahma Jidyasa, he makes a sharp distinction between the study of Brahman and ritualistic proficiency with regard to their respective reward. The latter leads to heaven, whereas the former guarantees eternal bliss. While most sutras point to the nature of Brahman as being consciousness as existence, there are occasions where Shankara exceptionally refers to bliss aspect as well. For example, during his critical examination of different conceptions of the self, he warns of the great loss in the form of deprivation of eternal bliss should an incomplete conception be considered. In his commentaries on the Upanishads, veiled and indirect allusions to Ananda can be discerned. For instance, in his interpretation of the term Param in the Taittiriya Upanishad and Kham Brahma in Chandogya. In Shankara's conceptualization of Brahman and Atman, Ananda is therefore not as superfluous as radically thought by the modern, mostly Western scholars. Had this been the case, the generation of Advaitins that succeeded him would have followed suit. In their respective masterpieces, Padmapada, Mandan Mishra, and Sureshwara Acharya further developed Shankara's thoughts, clarifying, expanding, and reinterpreting aspects of the system. While describing the nature of ultimate cause in his Panchapadika, Padmapada quotes the passage from the Krishna Yajurveda in the Bhargavi Varuni Vidya, asserting bliss as a final decision of the Vedic teachings. Ananda Dheyava Khalu iti. He argues that the term Brahman cannot be applied to the ultimate cause of the universe if it is devoid of bliss. Extrapolating on this, Prakash Atman in the Vivaran explores further possibilities of defining Brahman and comes to the conclusion that adjunctless bliss is a form of Brahman. Padmapada justifies his stand on the ground that human aspirations which spring from the desire to become all-knowing and all-powerful. The limitations of being human hint at the possibility of infinitude. The fulfillment of any desire procures the joy of momentary desirelessness, claims Padmapada. And it is this experience that drives men to seek happiness by all means and to avoid sorrow. Misery is an important catalyst in this process. Ananda, he concludes, becomes an emotional drive for man, Purushartha, as well as a teleological aim of the universe. Prakash Atman investigates into the phenomenological implications of Padmapada's argument on Ananda. Introspective analysis of the experience of joy expressed in the sentence, I am happy, should not be construed in the same sense as I am wealthy, as there is a fundamental difference between them. Though both can only be individually experienced, there is no dichotomy between the experiencer and happiness, whereas the duality of experiencer-experienced persists in the case of wealth. Scrutinizing the experience of the happiness, he argues that the I in the experience refers to the self reflected on the mind. Happiness is likewise a mental mode. Both translate into the experience of knowing of being happy. This apparently cognitive, emotive dualism is a result of the operation of the mind, itself a product of Maya. Maya avidya is an adjunct which obstructs the one eternal, ever-luminous and homogeneous Sat-Chit-Ananda Swarupatma to appear divided into knowledge and happiness. Mandan Mishra, on the other hand, differed from Padmapada and Prakash Atman. While they differed mainly on the question of Maya Vidya, Mandan and Padmapad concur on the nature of Brahman as being Sat-Chit-Ananda. In the first chapter of the Brahma Siddhi, he introduces the idea of Shabdadvaita, a radical departure from Shankara and Gaudapad. In his introductory arguments, Mandan begins by focusing on the axiological and phenomenological dimensions of Brahman. He notes that the Ananda side of the ultimate has been negatively interpreted as the absence of sorrow. Actually, bliss manifests itself positively in a fragmented manner in the temporary moments of joy and happiness. All living things, consciously or unconsciously, desire for happiness and seek satisfaction. The instinctive drive for self-preservation that characterizes all forms of life finds best expression in man's wish for immortality. Mumukshutva is not a defect or a dosha, but an innate longing to experience Ananda. Moreover, the fact that the extent and depth of happiness varies, making it measurable, points to the positive nature of Ananda. Not only experience, even the scriptures prove that bliss is the essence of the self. It is avidya that conceals and distorts Sat, Chit, and Ananda into the triputty of knower, knowledge, and known. Avidya-veiled Ananda assumes the shape of desire for enjoyment and attachment to illusory objects. The Brahma Siddhi in this way draws a clear line of demarcation between mundane joy and absolute bliss. The latter is both knowable and unknowable. Since it is self-manifest, it is knowable, says Mandan. But being non-objectifiable, it is also unknowable. This is because Brahman and Ananda are not related in the sense of dharma and dharmi, but as tadatmya. When the Upanishads state, Vijnanam Anandam Brahma, or Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, concludes Mandan, relational modes of Brahman alone are being expressed. While Mandan's approach was axiological, that of Sureshwara was epistemological. In the Nishkarmya Siddhi, he challenges Mandan's view that desire for bliss, should be driving the quest for liberation from suffering. Does this mean that he overlooked the Ananda dimension of Brahman? Not so, claims Sarvagyatman. In the Samshek Shariraka, he brings innovations as well as clarifications to the nature of Brahman Atman. So Sarvagyatman also discusses the importance of Ananda. And he discusses on the nature of dream sleep, the different states of consciousness. The generations of Acharya who came later further injected into the system elements of mysticism and devotionalism. Vimuktatman, Chitsukha, Vidyaranya, Madhusudan Saraswati, Apaya Dikshite, Ramarai Kavi contributed substantially towards making the system more relevant and practical. All of them recognized and stressed upon the blissful element of Satchidananda triad highlighted by the predecessors. Prakash Atman emphasized upon devotion. Vimuktatman dedicates a section of the Ishta Siddhi towards the elucidation of the meaning of the term Ananda. Madhusudan's Advait Siddhi attempts the synthesis of Bhakti and Dhyan. From the foregoing concise survey, it is clear that the concept of Ananda is considered as important in Advait Vedanta, as much as Sat and Chit. Just like a triangle with more or less than 3 angles is inconceivable, likewise, Brahman, as or without Sat or Chit or Ananda, is unimaginable. It is erroneous to think that for Shankara, Ananda was relevant or limited to the Vyavaharik Satta or in the Jagrit Avastha, that is in the waking state and at the empirical or relative level of reality. Mandan, Padmapad, Prakashatman and Sarvagyatman demonstrated the contrary. In so doing, they offered the much-needed ethical dimension, humanistic trait, and activistic relevance Advait Vedanta was unfairly accused of discounting. I end here thanking you all for your precious attention, and I apologize again if I overstepped on time. Thank you very much.